Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
The following is a statement from the Government of Grenada on diplomatic appointments. The Government of Grenada categorically denies the allegations which were recently made in the media regarding the CBI program, as well as the issuance of diplomatic passports. The government further states that no one has made any campaign contribution in order to be appointed as an ambassador. Neither is there any requirement for individuals to make campaign contributions in order to be considered for an appointment. Citizenship by investment programs are well-established investment programs internationally, which are maintained by many countries, including the US, Canada, and the UK. Grenada's CBI program has been ranked as one of the best-run programs by the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and other financial institutions. There were many unfortunate pronouncements which have led to confusion following a recent well-publicized television documentary, which leaves the erroneous impression that the issuing of diplomatic passports is a natural extension of or in any way related to the CBI program. The two are governed separately and have their own rules for implementation under clear policy guidelines. Furthermore, the Government of Grenada has a clear and distinct policy which has been in place and implemented by all administrations since 1974, which governs the appointment of diplomats. That policy is consistent with international norms that have been set out under the Vienna Convention, which governs these matters. In fact, it is important to note that a diplomatic passport does not automatically grant immunity to the holder. The only appointments that are subject to diplomatic immunity according to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations are officials who are accredited by the receiving state. Ambassadors at large, as per international protocol, while they benefit from certain courtesies, have no diplomatic immunity anywhere since they are not accredited by a receiving state. All persons considered for appointments must A. be of good reputation and proven competence, B. not have any criminal record, C. possess the skills necessary to function in the designated role, and D. submit to rigorous and satisfactory due diligence checks prior to and at any time during the appointments. It is categorically false that diplomatic appointments are for sale and have in any way been bought by non-nationals who currently serve the interests of Grenada overseas. Any attempt to tarnish the name of Grenada and the people of Grenada can be rebutted with facts. Even the Al Jazeera documentary admitted in several instances that they were only making allegations and, by their own admission, stated several times that they could find no facts to substantiate their claims. The Government of Grenada reassures the nation that its diplomatic appointments, as well as its CBI program, are conducted with the highest levels of integrity.
Everyone can contribute to the reduction of mosquitoes around their home or community. Get rid of all mosquito breeding sites. For example, remove unwanted containers such as bottles, tires, plastic bags, and coconut shells. Avoid the indiscriminate dumping of refuse and garbage. Clean and open drains as well as drain pipes. Cover tree holes. Clear roof guttering. Debush your surroundings and ensure that septic tanks are properly sealed. Be a good neighbor. Keep your surroundings clean and free of all mosquito breeding sites. That was a message from the Ministry of Health.
If you think safety rules are a pain, try having an accident. Drive safely. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
Trumpets sound, the angels sing, the universe proclaim. Of virgin's joy, a child is born, a messenger of peace. God and his angels rejoice in perfect bliss. Jesus, Emmanuel, was born this day. As he lay in a manger for weanings. Holy child, holy lamb, little Bethlehem. Praise him, his name in all the earth. Jesus, he's the King in all the earth. Our baby lay in a bale of hay, choir sweetly sing. A God to watch over those who watch the sun and the babe.
Good morning, Grenada, and wherever you are listening to us this morning. My name is Devon Romain, and this is Wednesday morning edition of Hard Talk. Yeah, we coming to you live via 97.5, City Sound, 89.5. All right, out there in Monjaloo. In Carriacou is 92.9, and in New York City 94.9 We Noise Radio. Good morning again to everyone, and this morning we continue. It's the Christmas season, and we expect persons to enjoy themselves and have fun. Hey, as from the word go, you can, give us a call, let us know what is going on, let us know your information that you want to share. So as you're about to start this morning, deal with some in-house matters. There are a few announcements here coming from first the Inland Revenue Department. Right, it was dated December. The Inland Revenue Department Division IRD of the Ministry of Finance reminds the public of the following taxes that are due and payable for December 2019. The 9th of December, which has already gone, pay as you earn, the pay and withholding tax. On the 10th of December, gaming tax due and payable. 20th of December, VAT, value-added tax, and excise tax return due and payable. On the 30th of December, income tax returns for business with fiscal year ending 31st September 2019. And on the 31st of December, we have income tax and annual stamp tax, AST, right? Installment due and payable, right? Note, when the due date falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or public holidays, the next working day will be the due date for payment. Persons are encouraged to file and pay all taxes on time to avoid penalties and interest. Payments can be made at the Ministry of Finance and District Revenue Offices or wire transfer for persons in the diaspora. For further information, please contact Mrs. Karen Maureen Alexander, Public Relations Officer, Inland Revenue Division, Ministry of Finance and Energy, at 435-6945 and 435-6946. Also 435-1905, or email us at Grenada GNDIRD@ird.gov. Okay? Control of Inland Revenue Department. So this is a reminder for all persons for paying your taxes and so during the course of December when it is due. Very important, because we don't want that interest and penalties, go up on our payments of taxes. We must be compliant, right? It's just one way of getting the government to have money to run its affairs. Taxes, very important. Okay? So all who know that the taxes are due within the course of this month, please adhere to the stipulations and ensure that you do it on time, right? So you don't incur penalties. Ministry of Infrastructure Development and Public Utilities, Energy, Transport and Implementation. All right, St. George's, the 10th December 2019. Debushing Program, December 2019 ongoing. The Ministry of Infrastructure Development says a meeting will be arranged with contractors of debushing crews to 1. Reinforce the stipulations of the Road Act. 2. To discuss the use of protective screens for the 2020 debushing program. And 3. To evaluate the level and compliance with the contractual guidelines. The ministry has received complaints from residents with respect to damage of property and plans by crew members. The indiscreet use of bush cutters, which poses a hazard to the monitoring public. The ministry apologizes for any inconvenience and kindly asks the general public for its support and understanding. Debushing crews are currently deployed for the period 2nd December 2019 to 13th December 2019. This is the final debushing program for 2019. For further information, please contact Mr. Richard McPhail at 440-2271. Okay? So that note is very important, and just to, the meeting that will be called by the Ministry of Infrastructure Development with all the debushing contractors and so to ensure that the Road Act, right, is being adhered to, right, and the guidelines that runs the affairs of the debushing program is being done in the proper way. And so because there have been numerous complaints by citizens of the way in which some of the crews operate, right, and it's of concern. And we here on this program always, hear and advise, especially the crews, some of the things that you must do when operating on the side of the public roads, right? Doing the bushing using the weed eaters. It's very important. The question of vehicles, the damage, personnel walking and so, right? The damage to your eyes and other facial injuries. So you must be careful, as we continue to make Grenada safe, right? The number you can call us at is 440-7377, and overseas number is 347-329-3101. Okay, and good morning to all our police officers around the island. Yeah, good morning to all of you, our prison officers, Coast Guard, and so our teachers. This should be the last week of school for this term before the Christmas holiday. Good morning to all of you, the students. And so those of you who have cross-country today and the rest of the week, we ask that motorists, right, please be mindful of the young ones running and so, right, pay attention on the road and give them your support. Please, give them your support. Good morning to all our elderly citizens and our citizens in the different homes. And so, good morning to you. Special Wednesday morning. Good morning to all our parliamentarians and our politicians. Morning, Mr. Prime Minister. And so, this morning, wow, we have a crowded port at St. George's. 3 cruise ships in. 2 massive ones there out there, the St. George's Port on Melbourne Street, and one in the inner port. All right, so today is a busy day. So we ask pedestrians and motorists alike to be careful and mindful of everyone using the road. Right, the rain is out, and so right, the roads will be wet and slippery. Right, so those of you using the roads, be careful. Careful for pedestrians, careful for another motorists, and drive safely. Take your time. We have thousands of visitors in our country today, right? I think it would be one of the most amount of visitors in for the year, right? And as soon as I get the exact figures to the amount, I will definitely let you know as to how much. All right. Good morning to all the vendors around Grenada, wherever you are, providing a service for our visitors. Whether you at Annandale, Granitang, Bathway, Concord, the Fort, Granans, wherever you are, providing that wonderful service for our visitors. Good morning to you. All right. Good morning and welcome. Hello. Good morning.
Hi. Is this Nazim?
No. Good morning
Hello?
to you. Hello,
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, you're live.
Oh, is that Nazim? That is Bola here. Live already?
No, that is you. That's Devon. You live. You live, Mr. Bola. Good morning to you, sir.
And how are you?
Not too bad and nice. And I just forgot earlier to let our listeners know that we would have been joined by you sometime this morning, to discuss a number of things, and so on. And there you are. And so a pleasant good morning to you.
And good morning to all your listeners. You know, I am one of those who are very obedient. So when instructed, I will do as I'm told.
Definitely.
So I was told that despite the fact that I cannot be in studio with you, as soon as I can make it, as soon as it is possible, that I should call in. So hence the reason I'm here with you very early. So I don't know what exactly the topic is, but shoot, I'll always try and defend.
Well, definitely. I mean, we have a number of things that are ongoing, for example, in our country, and the discussion, and so we'll center some of it around the recently read budget and so, and the whole question of the tax regime in our country, and other issues that is very relevant to our nation that you may want to discuss. Then you will feel free to shoot, All
right, everyone.
So I want to start off with you this morning, Mr. Bola, and understanding the importance of tax, right? The whole question of tax to the development of our country. Can you give us an insight, an explanation as to why it is so important for all of us as citizens, and so not just individuals but businesses, and so to comply with the tax regime of a particular country?
Okay, that's a topic that I think definitely we need to have a lot more discourse on in our country. And I say that from the standpoint that once you mention the word tax and taxation and paying a tax, most countries, most population, most citizens don't like it. It's not something, especially third world countries, especially small and developing economies. People don't like to hear about tax. People don't feel it is their responsibility to pay taxes. In some of the first world countries, the metropolitan states like the US and Europe, and so I think the understanding among the population is better, and so while there might still be some little quarrels, you know that they are obligated to pay taxes. So it's a cultural change that we need to have in Grenada. However, let me hasten to say that it is absolutely necessary that we pay taxes as citizens. We understand all that government is supposed to do, and we demand, in fact, a lot from government to do. But one must stop for just a short while and ask, how does government acquire or raise the funds, the necessary resources to do what we expect them to do? So, public servants must be paid, and paid on time, get increases, and almost yearly. And, it was only about 2 days ago I was thinking, from 2013, when NNP came back into office, to now, I think I added it up to 2020, with the increases in salaries for public servants over the period. Over a 7 or 8 year period, public servants must have received about 17% so far. If you recall, 4% immediately as the government came in 2013.
Yes.
Then there was another 10% that was split 3% 2017, 3% 2018, 4% 2019. So that's already 14. And there's another 4% to be paid in January of 2020, which was just agreed, and that goes up to 2022. But if you check the 4%, so it's about 18% checking from 2013 to now. How does government raise the funds to do that? We need our roads repaired. We want to have good roads, no potholes. We wanted the bushels to continue to clean and the drains to be open. We ask for better services at the hospitals. We want our schools repaired. People cry out and say, well, look, we need to get house repair material. It's not coming fast enough. We still want the free book program. We want lunches to be provided in schools for children. The police must get new and proper vehicles. We want more ambulances, and I can go on and on and on with the demands. What we're doing about the youth, the Imani is there, but they need to get more permanent jobs, and we need training and scholarships, and millions have to be spent for this and that. Look, the government in its last budgeted $5 million for the eradication of pit latrine, giving everyone most people to have in-house the water closet type toilet set. Yeah. I think I heard the minister said they are targeting to do about 10,000 people for 2020 with that, and maybe I guess the program will continue beyond 2021 and beyond. Farmers want more assistance. I'm saying all of that to say that there is a need for money, but how does government get the money to service all of those things, to meet all of those demands, to reach the request that is being made of them, generally?
Right. So taxes. So that's
taxes.
What is so important, and so but,
absolutely important, brother.
Yeah, because besides taxes, for government to perform and to function properly, based on my limited information and so about the economy, taxes are key, together with things like grants and
right.
and concessionary loans, and so very important in terms for our country to move forward. Over the years, how did that help Grenada? For example, the last 5 or 6 years after we went through that structural adjustment program.
Well, having introduced the structural adjustment program, what it did for us was really, one, lift the consciousness, I believe, but secondly, with the laws that was put in place, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and so it has caused a tightening. People recognize and people had to understand that, hey, we have to pay our taxes. We have to help ourselves. That is how our country runs. Because the grants that you just mentioned, which is another way that government get assistance, is friendly countries giving you some money. They didn't loan you, they give you. They give you $1 million. Like, for example, we've just signed, the Minister for Foreign Affairs just recently, a month or so ago, signed with Morocco, the Kingdom of Morocco. They will continue to provide fertilizer. As we speak, farmers are getting fertilizer that came from Morocco, 110 pounds of fertilizer in the bag at $50 a bag. That very said fertilizer, in different ratio, different chemical mix, will be selling in any one of the private establishment for well over $140 a bag. And they're getting it from government at $50 a bag because it is a gift from the Kingdom of Morocco, but government has to pay the transportation, the freight from Morocco to here and to Clayton, the customs and so. So that's why there's a $50 charge. So the farmers are benefiting. That's a gift. How was Morocco able to do that? It is simply because their citizens in their country are paying the taxes. But more than that, they are going to give us about 20-something scholarships that they have to pay for tuition, for books, for living accommodation, and so they're paying for it for Grenadian students to study. It is their taxpayers that are paying that. They also sign on to give to Grenada, I think, and don't quote me on this one, if it's not $500,000, it's $1 million US per year as budgetary support. So that is money, hard cash coming to us to assist, again, the country. But they didn't pick the money up on the ground. There's not a hole or a well that they dug to get money. Their citizens have to be paying taxes. And because they're paying well and they can take care of the internal affairs, they say, look, we have some surplus that we can help a neighboring, a friendly country of ours. So taxes are important. So you get grants. And then when your taxes that you collect internally plus the grants are insufficient to take care of all that you need to do in your country in any fiscal year, then you can do some loans. But, that is why, and I'm trying to break it down as simple as possible, to have the people understand why it is necessary to pay taxes. And taxes come in different forms. You have taxes and fees. You have license. So, for example, you are a driver, I am a driver. Once per year, we must pay our driver's license. It's a means of government raising funds. Yes? So without that, the police can arrest you and charge you because you're driving illegally. You have to license your vehicle. That's another way of the government raising funds. You have what you call property tax, where you would pay for your land, and it is categorized. If your land is categorized as agricultural, then you pay no taxes on that. If it's residential, you pay taxes. And there's a way that they work it out. For 1,000, based on the value, you pay whatever percentage. Your buildings, you pay that. Then you were announcing all year on the income tax, right? That's another set of taxations. People who work in excess of $3,000. So if your salary is less than $3,000, $2,999, you pay no income tax, no tax on the income that you get. If your salary is above $3,000, so it's $3,000 and $3,100, for example, you pay on the excess of $3,000. And what you pay, I think it was 15%. I think now it is down to 12.5%, thereabout, the percentage. I'm not absolutely sure on. So it means that if you're earning more than 3,000, whatever you earn more than 3,000, you pay a small percentage on that. So if it is 15% and you're making $3,100, you pay only $15 monthly as income tax. Now, there's another bracket that you're paying. So if you're making now more than 5,000, you would pay on the excess between 3,000 and 5,000, you pay your 15%. And I think it went down from last year, but that must be verified from 15%. And you're making in excess of 5,000. The excess of 5,000 now, then you pay 30% on that. So there are different forms of taxation. So you have the property tax, you have the license, you have the fees, you have businesses that would pay what they call profit gain tax, you have stamp duty. So when you do a legal document and you buy a stamp, it's a means of how government raises revenue to take care of all the many things we demand from government. Salary increases, all the things I spoke about, assistance to school children, scholarship, buildings, government have to pay the utility bills. Look, there's a impasse going on now between the lecturers at TAMCC
yes.
and the council. Now the government assists the council. Government spends about $17 million a year in assistance to TAMCC. $14 million directly to the council to aid and assist with salary payment, and another $3 million that they pay in utility fees. So they pay for the water and the telecommunication and internet and electricity and everything. Government spends about $3 million a year doing that for TAMCC. So where does all this money come from? Taxes mainly is where it comes from.
And, well, Mr. Bula, as we on taxes and fees and so, it has been announced recently that there are two major increases. Well, when I say that increases that will occur in 2021, we're talking of the increase in the NIS contribution and to NAWASA, right? Yes. And so could you, with your knowledge and based on what you know, and so could you just give a explanation or some clarification as to the public as to what? Because there has been persons out there clamoring and talking about taxes again, and NAWASA raising this, and NIS going up, and not understanding the importance, right, of these fees that were added on. Could you just elaborate?
Yes. Well, Devon, first I would have liked you to say with my limited knowledge, because when you say with my knowledge, people think that I might be the repository of all knowledge. So with my limited knowledge, I can tell you what I understand.
Okay,
first, the NIS increase is not a tax. We have to declare that and make that absolutely clear. Excuse me. What you pay for NIS, it is not a tax. The NIS is what is called a contributory pension scheme. It is where you get your pension from when you retire. But whereas before 1983, before the abolition of the Pension Act by the PRG, where your employer was responsible for paying your full pension, they brought in the NIS, which is a replacement for whatever scheme that was in place that became contributory. So in other words, as the employer, I will contribute, and as the employee, you also have to contribute. That's why there are two sides to it. As we speak now, up to the end of December, NIS payment is 9% of your salary. But the employee, that's the person who works, pays 4%. The employer, like government or Huggins or Roberts, pays 5%, right? So both people are contributing to the pension that you will get at the end of the day. So it is not a tax, number one. It is a contributory pension scheme. That is what the NIS is. Come January, and a lot of explanation was given on that. Maybe some more needs to. You need to continue to educate people. The NIS has been saying now for many years, based on the actuary report. And what is your actuary report? The actuary is an accountant, someone who comes in, who looks at where you are now in your business or in the establishment, what your collections are, what your payments will be in years to come or down the line, and can advise you that, look, at the rate of collection, at the numbers that you have, and the amount you have to pay, by a certain time, if you do not increase what you are taking in, you will bust, you will run out, which is what is going to happen to the NIS. They said by 2030, thereabout, if we continue to collect at 9% on salaries, they won't be able to continue down the line. And hence the reason there's going to be a 2% increase, one to the employer and one to the employee. So whereas the employee is paying 4% now, come from January, they will be paying 5%. The employer is paying 5% now, from January, they will be paying 6%. Yes? And it goes towards you getting a pension, not a tax. It doesn't go into the Ministry of Finance. It doesn't go to Inland Revenue Division. It doesn't go to the government. It goes to the NIS, who invest and do whatever else to continue paying those who are qualified now for pension and those who will be qualified down the line. So that's the first thing. So when they say there's an increase in tax because you have to pay more NIS, absolutely not true. Yes, there's an increase in the NIS contribution. We will each have to pay a 1% more. So it is for government as well, because government have thousands of employees. They would have to be paying 1% more for them as well. Yes? Yeah. So I hope that little explanation clears it up a little bit for some people. But you can always call the NIS, you can always speak to them, they'll explain to you, tell you why there's the absolute need for the increase, and it's just a 1%. Now, if we do not do that, if the NIS do not do that at this time, based on the report and the projection forward, in another year or two, they may have to increase by much higher percentage, 5 or 6% per month instead of the 1% now. The other thing that we need to look at as it relates to that is the countries around us. Every single island around us today has higher rates for the same reason of NI. St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Jamaica, all of them, they are up. And of course, Barbados, that we look at, it's what, 22% or thereabout in Barbados for NIS contribution. We are moving from 9 to 11, an increase of 2%. So not a tax. The second one you ask about is Nawasa. Yes, Nawasa would have some rate increase coming, I think, from January as well. Yes. But there was a lot of explanation on that too. I saw the manager and the chairman of the board and so. And it's interesting, very interesting to note that we are still probably paying the least amount in the region for water. In terms of all the other utilities, the water is still the cheapest. Compared to electricity, to telephone, to internet, water is still the cheapest. That again is not a tax. We are paying for a service. We are paying for a commodity that we are utilizing. It's like buying a pound of sugar. It is not a tax when you pay for it, or you buy a pound of rice, or you buy a hand of blogger, or some yams from a farmer. It is not a tax. It is paying for the services and for a commodity that we utilize. But interesting to note is that from the time Nawasa came about in the 90s, I think, it took Nawasa 18 years before there was the first ever increase in the rates for the commodity that we have been utilizing. 18 years. After that, first increase. This now that is going to happen will be the second increase ever from the time they came into existence. And that is an increase that is coming 10 years after the last time. So it meant that for 10 years we have been receiving the commodity at the same rate. And I know the argument will be from some people is that, well, water is free. Of course, it's rain, it comes down, God provided it, but it doesn't get to us free. Now, we can stop using water that comes through the lines from Nawasa and maybe collect our rainwater and do whatever we want with it throughout the year, and then we don't have to pay anything. But there is a cost, and that cost has been growing year after year. One, to trap and store the water. Storage cost has been increasing. Treatment cost has been increasing. Distribution cost has been increasing, meaning that when you trap it, when you store it, wherever you store it, and then you purify it, and so you have to move it from wherever that storage or the dams are to the homes of the various persons. So the cost of lines have been increasing. Repairs, you have to dig up the road when there is a broken pipe, and you have so more cost for Nawasa. The cost for getting the water to us has been increasing over the years, and they are now saying, listen, for us to continue to survive, to give a better supply, to keep the quality and the standard up, to keep it reliable, we must get a little increase on what we're doing. Difficult? Yes. You have to spend more? Yes. It's going to be harder for a lot of us? Yes. But is it necessary? It's also yes. Because we want standard. We want a better standard. We want to continue as a people to make sure that when we open our taps, water can come through it. And what water? Clean, reliable, drinkable water that is not going to make us sick, that we can clean our places, we can bathe our children, we can bathe our seniors. We want that. If we want it, we have to make our minds up and make the commitment and say, well, now, sir, I wish you were never going to lift the rate, but I have to accept that a little rate increase is what is going to keep us in business. There's maintenance. There's a lot of lines that have to be changed. It's going to cost them. And they did spell out. I have the document someplace, not with me because I'm not in office. Today is the day when I normally go around and do visitations. I'm out of office. I'm back with them. They've on somewhere on the road to speak to you because I can't retrieve that document now. But they did say over the next 5 years, I think, based on the level of work that would have to take place to maintain and to improve the standard and the quality of what they are providing for us, I think it runs into $200 and something million. And, so there need to be a little rate increase there. And I'm not saying it as though, well, it's just a walk in the park for a lot of people. $5 increase, $10 increase, $2 increase is a lot because they are struggling to get by at this time with the rates that they have. But we have to find a way to say, hey, it is necessary. If we need additional information, we can always call up Nawasa, call up whoever, call somebody you know or who you think might be able to explain it to you better, so you can have a better understanding as to the reasons behind it. But I don't think it is good enough for us to just sit back and say, oh, now what's increasing? That is the next tax. NIS increasing is another tax. They are not taxes. Absolutely not. Not true. There have been no increases in taxes. The budget was read, and I did not hear the Minister of Finance speak anything about an increase in tax.
Right. Mr. Bula, as we on the budget, we have noticed that agriculture, right, after a fairly long time, have been basically given, I think, the second or third highest portion of the budget allocation. And so if I'm not mistaken, over the years, we have heard that, farmers and so have been complaining of the assistance given to them by government and so. And we have seen government making that effort to ensure that they touch every sector and so on. Led by Minister Bain Horsford, agriculture over the last 2 or 3 years has been definitely on the up, right? How do you see that increase, right, that was given to agriculture within that budget help propel the growth of production and so for our people and, for example, export?
Well, a topic that needs a long time for a lot of discussion, and those who know me know I have a passion for agriculture.
Very much so.
That's my love. I'm a farmer by nature, and sometimes I say by profession. I like to plant. Whether I get $1 for what I plant or not, it doesn't matter. I just like to see things grow. I like to dabble in the mud a little bit and do things. So it's a passionate thing for me. The fact is, my friend, if one really sits and quantifies all that goes into agriculture, forget what is said in the budget. But if we can just put pen and paper together and quantify all that is given time and time again, the feeder roads, the farm roads, the bridges, the labor assistance to farmers, the fertilizer which we spoke about just a little while ago. And you quantify everything. Agriculture really, really gets a lot more than we know, a lot more than is spoken about. Now, I understand it when sometimes the farmers complain, that we're not getting enough, we are not getting enough assistance, because they look at what other sectors get, but I also think they look at how other sectors perform. And they fail to look at how they perform, because it's done differently. So, for example, an individual or a company may come forward and say, look, we want to build a 80-room, a 120-room hotel. And through the GIDC, there are certain concessionary things that they get. Maybe concession on materials, or maybe on furniture, or what have you. And a farmer feels, well, look at what the hotel you're getting, what am I getting? Farmers get 100% for those who can afford it. 100% of the tax and duties coming off on an appropriate vehicle for farming. Yeah? You pay not $1 to the customs. Once you bring in the appropriate kind of vehicle, a pickup type vehicle, if you want to buy a luxury car and say it's for farming, you won't get that. Yes? So it is not true sometimes when we as farmers say, well, government ain't doing or we ain't getting. We are getting. It's how we utilize it. and so out there. I know that small manufacturers, people who are involved in the transfer of agricultural produce into secondary products, they too, there's a regime that will allow them to get concessions and other things. So they are getting. What I think, in my humble opinion, is the major issue in the agricultural sector is that the efforts are not well coordinated, one, and two, there seem to me to be some level of, I don't really want to say biasness. Probably the better word to say is unfairness in the way in which sometimes what's available is being distributed. In other words, we can say it's not distributed in an equitable manner. There are some farmers that appear to be the privileged ones, and that is based on, in my opinion, and from what I've learned, is being based on friendship and connections and so. So if you are connected with the people who are responsible for distributing and sharing whatever is available, you sometimes get a much larger slice of the pie, and there are some people who never ever get a taste of the pie. And so we have to find a way. The system have to find a way to be much more equitable. And notice I'm not saying to be more equal, because I don't believe it has to be shared equally. There are some people who have far more lands, who employ more people in the place and who do more than others. So I expect them to get more. But there are some people who are trying to get off the ground, limited with resources, and sometimes they fall through the crack. They never get seen. And I don't want to level blame on anyone. I don't want to say it's Tom's fault or Harry's fault or Dick's fault that this person didn't get or wasn't serviced. Sometimes again it is the amount you have. You're right, you get, and by the time you try to divide it or subdivide it, some people get squeezed out. But we have to find a way to ensure that no one gets left behind, that everybody gets an opportunity to taste what is there and to be serviced by who have to be given the service. So I know there is a good system, for example, with the fertilizer. One, you must be a registered farmer, so unless you have your farmer's ID, which came into being quite a while now, and there are a lot of farmers who have their ID, and make sure that your ID is up to date, because even when I had to get, I didn't realize my ID was expired, so I had to go back to the ministry
to get it.
They recertify me as a farmer. So if you don't have your farmer's ID, one, you are disqualified from getting fertilizer. But two, there is a limit on the amount every farmer could get. 5 bags per farmer.
Yeah.
5 bags of fertilizer, because that's the fertilizer that is coming at subsidized price, highly subsidized. Like I said earlier on, 110 pounds in the bag that could cost about $140 because of the relationship and the government brought it in. You're getting it at $50. Now that is good.
Very good.
However, though, I do not expect a farmer who, for example, has 20 acres of pure stand cocoa, and he has another 10 acres with bananas and plantain, and 10 acres of nutmeg, to feel that 5 bags is sufficient for him. Definitely not. He will have to get some from the private sector. But after servicing those around, depending on what you have left, I believe these farmers now must be looked at again and say, well, now you can get an additional 3 bags, an additional 5 bags because of acreage. And then again, it is not every farmer that will require 5 bags. While 5 is the limit, a farmer that has 1 acre just doing a little sweet potato and, whatever else, may say 2 bags could suffice me for the time, so I don't need to get 5. But in coming up with the numbers, we have to make sure that we try to reach as many people as possible. And there are many other programs that you'll hear farmers complaining about, the tractor service, they know farmer A, before he call, they come and plow for him, and I had called 6 months now, I paid my money, and they're giving me the runaround.
Yeah, we always find that.
To tighten up and do this thing better.
And as we on that, the benefits, there was a program unveiled by the Ministry of Agriculture where farmers I think with 5 acres or more are being given assistance to clear up their lands. And so, right, that has been ongoing. Could you just elaborate or give some more about specifics about that?
That's the labor assistance program, and that has been around for a while now. In fact, post-Hurricane Ivan, the program kind of started with farmers or being assisted in clearing up their land. In fact, post-Ivan, what you had was where the farmer and his family could have worked on the plot. And once it's verified by the extension people, they would have been paid. Because post-Ivan, you said, well, everything is done, nutmeg on the ground, cocoa on the ground, all crops destroyed, people don't have money. So in the rehabilitation effort, you wanted to make sure that you put some cash back into the hands of people. So they said, farmer, you and your family can work and you can hire other people in the neighborhood to clear up, to plant. Once certified, the government paid people for doing that. And then it continued with what was called the farm labor program. So earlier on, what you had was farmers would make application, the extension people should be in charge to do the verification. They would get people on the farm, they'd get about 10 days of work, and you pay. But then we realized that what was happening, a lot of farmers got their lands cleared up, and the next year they came back for the same lands to be cleared with nothing in it. So there had been some changes. You tweak the program a little bit and you say, listen, if we are going to send 4 or 5 people on your farm, first thing must be, we verify you are a farmer and you have lands. Right. So that verification is done. Number 2 is that you must have plants available to plant on the property. So when we clean for a few days, we'd have the workers prepare the area and plant. So we're not cleaning land and leave on the ground. So if you don't have plant or means of getting plant, you won't get your lands clean. So there are certain conditionalities, but the program continues. And I think there's a $500,000 budgeted this year for assistance under that program. So it's an excellent program, and they're trying to make it become more productive. So it's not just about cleaning land, but it's about cleaning land and making it become productive.
Yes. Mr. Ball, just before we move off from agriculture, though, just kind of give us an insight as what are the benefits that farmers or citizens, right, realize from the whole Carriacou project that is going on in our country?
Well, first, let me say that Carriacou is a private company.
Yes.
It's an investor who came in. A lot of people sometimes complain and say, oh, we talk about foreign investors coming in, and all they come and do is buy up our prime property, buy up beachfront property and build hotels and so. Here is an example of a foreign investor who came in, because I remember the people from Carriacou, Renegade Spirits, came in during the time I was Minister for Agriculture. I remember having the extension officers going out with them looking for lands. I was a little bit puzzled and concerned first about the whole issue of planting cane, because initially what the company wanted was not to plant cane themselves, but to employ Grenadians, people who are already in cane and who wanted to get into cane, to grow the cane and that they will purchase it from them. Okay. We had invited the Cane Farmers Association to come on board. They did. There were meetings and so. But it was proving difficult to get the farmers to really settle in and to give some kind of assurance that they can plant the cane and have a constant supply. So that is what caused Carriacou people to get into the planting for themselves. And maybe it's a benefit to Grenada in one way or the other. Because what you have now is the company not purchasing land, as some people want to believe, but renting from people, leasing lands for 10 years in the first instance to plant the cane, and paying a pretty reasonable amount of $1,000 per acre per year. So a lot of people who had what could have been referred to as idle agricultural lands that are suitable for farming, was just lying on the ground. They are now able to rent it to Carriacou, who initially said that they needed to have about 550 acres under cane cultivation in order to sustain the production of alcohol in any one year. I have recently learned that based on their calculations, they said from the initial stages they have close to 200 acres already under cultivation. They didn't realize that the production or the amount, the yield, that is the correct word, would have been so much. So in other words, they may now need less land than they thought.
Okay.
To grow cane that can sustain them through the year, because the yield that they're getting per acre is far more than what they anticipated earlier on. Yes? So I don't know what the total will be now, but to me it is going to be downwards from the 550 acres that they originally said. You talk about benefits. So now you have a family probably who had a 10 acres. At 20 acres was there. Nobody was doing anything productive with it. It's lying there. Now Carriacou is listing it from them and planting cane. Now I've heard the argument that Carriacou come and take all people's land now and planting cane. What farmers going to do? I have not seen, heard, or know of any area that was under serious productive cultivation that has been utilized by Carriacou to plant cane. All of the lands that I know about, and if there's any area that somebody know, maybe they can raise that, but all that I personally know about has been lands that either was abandoned, has not been cultivated for more than 10 years or so. These are the kind of lands that Carriacou is now cultivating with cane. So they have employed close to 200 people already in the fields. Then hopefully from January they would start up production. So the factory is going to take a certain amount. There are temporary workers there now doing the construction and trying to set up the machines and so. So it's definitely a benefit.
Okay.
Then there's going to be the export. Because my understanding from all that has been said and done and signed up, that the rum that they're going to be producing will not be for local consumption. They're not making rum to sell locally. They're going to produce the rum, they're going to age the rum, and it has international market. Now, just like our chocolate, our Juve and from Belmont Estate and the Grenada chocolate factory that is making a name for itself out there, that is causing Grenadian chocolate to be known and Grenada to be known as a chocolate city, we can say so. And our source up that they said for last year for alone we've sold over 13 million US dollars worth of soursop.
Wow.
And it's the only country that can export soursop to the international market like Europe, Canada, and the US.
You say 13 million? 13 million?
Time,
wow.
Our rum from Renegade Spirits will be going out there with a label saying made in Grenada that will be a top quality product that will help sell Grenada. So it's not just our agriculture will be benefiting, but our island will be publicized and more people will want to come to see, but where is this place that is making such a good rum? Like, I'll give you just a quick example, Devon. From the time the Grenada Cocoa Association started making the chocolate called Juve, we all know it locally. Every time I travel out of Grenada, I go with a couple of bars. I buy some and go with it. And I can testify to you that for every single person I meet wherever part of the world that I go and give them a chocolate, they doubt me. That's what's made in Grenada. That's the best chocolate I've ever tasted. And I say you must come to Grenada. There's a lot more than chocolate that you can enjoy. I just came, from Washington over the weekend. I went with some. I went to the conference I went to. I distributed. Everybody loved it. In August, who was in Philadelphia, we brought the taxi that was taking us around. It was a woman that was driving. When she had the first bus, she said, "Boy, I have to bring a piece of that for my daughter." And she was driving around every time she go back to the pocket and take a look. You know what? I'm sure she could get it. That thing is so good. I laughed, we think. And then when we were dropping off, I said, "Anyway, your daughter will get, here is another bag." She said, "It's the best chocolate I've ever tasted." So I'm just making the point to say that when you produce quality stuff in Grenada and it is exported out there, it is not just those of us who had the opportunity to have a job in the field or in the factory that benefits. The country benefits at large because people get to know. They want the product. And when we can't supply, they want to see this little place called Grenada that is making such an excellent product. So the Carriacou project is an excellent project that we can benefit from in diverse ways. So sometimes when people criticize, they must have facts and good points to criticize, and they must look at the positive. Yes, there may be negatives, and I'm saying if there are, let us speak about it, let us deal with it, let us find ways to change it. But do not just criticize for the sake of criticism.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Mola, you have given us a mouthful on agriculture. And before I let you go, though, I still want to take a couple of minutes with you.
Couple of minutes. That's what I will give you. A couple of minutes.
We have to touch on the whole question. Well, two things mainly. But infrastructure development. We have seen over the last months and will continue into 2020 and beyond, the amount of infrastructure development that is going around our country, especially to the northern side of our country, right? Sort of give us an insight and to the impact that it will create in the years to come, right? For the most northern part of our country, we have seen the rehabilitation of the roads and bridges and so. Talk about that for me a few minutes.
Right. So I think from what you're saying, I gather that you're talking now about the St. Patrick's Road project,
yes.
Which is a major. There are several things that have been happening, but that's one of the major things that is happening presently. Yes? The project has started. They are now doing some bridges towards the Hermitage side into getting into Mount Reach. And then they have the other side to do, because I know the replacement of the Pointsfield Bridge is down, drainage and expansion of roads and so. Now, that speaks volumes to the development we are talking about outside of St. George. And the government doesn't just do things by chance. Now, if you check with GIDC, the Grenada Industrial Development Corporation, you would know that from the packages that they offer to investors, if you are going to invest outside of the city of St. George's, your package will be much more lucrative than someone who is going to invest within St. George's. The amount you invest in would also determine the amount of concessions you can get. So let me just give a quick example. If there's an investor that decides he wants to go to Grenada and build a 50-room hotel, there are certain concessions. It's laid down. It's in law. It's not something that just happened overnight or picked from my heart. Go to GIDC. They can tell you exactly what you can benefit from if you're going to do that. Now, another investor wants to go to St. Patrick's or St. David's, some part of St. Andrews, and build a 50-room hotel, spending same amount of money like that investor who is going to spend in Grandad will get more incentive than the one building in Grenada, because the government is trying to move development out of the city into the rural areas. But to do that, the infrastructure must be in place. So your roads and your bridges and your drains must be in place. If you want to encourage people, move away from town, move away from the airport, move away from the port, go further inland, you have to provide the infrastructural development. So your water supply must be good, and that is why, again, the government would have worked hard through the Grid and Climate Fund and the GCF, through the Ministry of Environment, to get over $100 million in grant money for our water, to provide new piping island-wide, to provide greater storage facilities, to ensure that the entire island will be under constant supply of good quality water, right? There's another $40-something million that they got through the UK for now water again to assist with our sewage and other things like that. All of that will lend itself to the investment that you want people to do outside of the city area. So it's excellent that the road is being done, outside of the fact that it would make it easier for the traveling public, pedestrians as well as motorists. It's going to encourage our investors to see, it only takes me 45 minutes now from St. George's to Sotels, because we have good roads, we have proper bridges. When it rains, the water doesn't run over the bridge. I have to get an alternative route. The bridges are good, the drains are good, the road is widened, the cobwebs are built, and so I can encourage and do business outside of the town. So I mean, there are a lot more benefits that can come, but time wouldn't permit us now to get into all of it. Even our farmers from the inner country areas can now get their produce into St. George's at a much faster rate with better road conditions and so on.
With less damage and so. Now, Mr. Boa, finally, if I didn't ask that question, I mean, it would not have been, as you will say, good journalistic skills, which I don't possess anyways. But over the last couple of weeks, we have been hearing all sorts of the detractors, right, making all sorts of accusations, allegations, and so about the government and its doing when it comes to the Citizens by Investment program. Now, as General Secretary of the new National Party, the party that is governing Grenada, just before you go, just give us from the party's point of view, what can you tell us?
The party has its concerns, Devon. Concerns for the fact that all we are doing with those things is really damaging the image of our country for the purposes of trying to get rid of one individual. And it is a fact that Dr. Mitchell has been in leadership position in this country much longer than any other Grenadian that we can think about who has been in politics.
Yes.
Some people like him very much, some don't. That's all right. It is your right to support whichever political party you are affiliated with or you want to. The point that we are concerned about is that you're using an issue that came to the fore many years ago, that was dealt with thoroughly, even in a legal way, because one must drag the mind back to there was an inquiry, there was an investigation when the accusation was made.
The Cheltenham report, Cheltenham inquiry, yeah.
The gentleman was declared as being honorable, not guilty of any of the accusations. Members personnel who were with him at the time when the accusation was made was called to question in the inquiry. There were members of the opposition who was called in. No evidence was presented. Now they're using a different format to bring this thing out and to pretend that there are new evidence. Exactly. Even the documentary itself, I saw it on several occasions, said that these are all allegations and they have no facts to back it up. Yes? Now, we are just saying, listen, people, let's be sensible. Grenada is moving forward. Grenada is growing by leaps and bounds. The economy is doing better. We are not out of the woods yet. There are many things that we can highlight that needs to improve. Healthcare, for example, is one of the areas that we need massive improvement. And we're hoping that the coming into being of the NHI, where financing for health will become much more available, will bring about an improvement with better planning and management and everything. So we accept that there are shortcomings. We are not perfect. However, though, what they're striving to do is only going to paint a worse picture about this country. Right. That being said, there are two things that I want to place out there now, Devon. The whole thing about foreign ambassadors at large, people who are not Grenadians that has been given diplomatic passport, and the ambassadorial program and the Citizen by Investment program, they are two completely different programs. That was established. They have been governed by different rules. They have different players. Everything is different. But here is what. The former administration has people now that are accusing this administration of having diplomats who are not Grenadian. This is not something new. This has been happening since the days of Eric Matthew-Gary as Prime Minister.
Of course.
The former administration themselves, there are some of the diplomats today that still operate as foreign diplomats for Grenada that was selected and given the diplomatic passport by the NDC administration. We had in an interview where the former Prime Minister accepted that he received the monies for his party. The tape is there. We can look at it. Now, that says two things. One, he's admitting that political parties need to be funded. If he's saying, I accepted when I got monies, that's what he's saying. When I got monies for my party, which came on his name and on his account, this is what I did. So you are accepting that political parties need to be funded. So the issue about, you're giving diplomatic passport for fund, there is no proof to that, there is no truth to that, but there is a truth that political parties must be funded because he accepted money on behalf of his political party.
And he denied it at first, eh?
Yeah, he denied it at first, but we don't want to get into that now. We'll deal with it at another time.
Good.
But the second thing I want to know, if that man is so upfront and honest to say, yes, I received money, why don't he tell us who he received the money from?
Exactly.
Because we know who he received from. The same accusation that they're making about the NNP, that you're giving diplomatic passports and diplomats who are foreign to get money for your party, which is absolutely false because there is nothing in the document, nothing in the agreement that says when you become a diplomat, you have to contribute to the party. Absolutely nothing. But we know that the person who is not telling us that he got the money from was a diplomat that they appointed. Right?
Yep.
The second thing I want to put out there is that the present leader of the NDC, she benefited significantly with trips and other things when she was a minister that was paid for by a diplomat who they appointed. If she's honest and upfront enough, she's going to tell us yes or no, these things happen. Now, I'm just putting that out there to say, listen, you cannot accuse me or my party of being wrong without any proof, absolutely, without one shred of evidence. But we have evidence of how you benefited from the same thing that you want to say we are benefiting from now. And that's where I would leave it there.
Yes, and I would definitely leave that right there. Well, Mr. Bola, thank you very much for making yourself available and contributing towards the program, enlightening and giving us much more insight as to some of the different things that are going on in our country. I mean, I wish we could have a whole 3 or 4 hours to talk about, especially.
We may at some point in time get that, but for now, I really have to run. I thank you too for accommodating me, and I hope that from whatever I might have said, it may shed some light on some things, and people will be better able to understand what is happening. And like I oftentimes say when I have the opportunity to be on the program, that whatever you hear, do not take it wholesale. Do not take it for granted. Take your time, do your own investigation, ask questions, let other people help you verify before you start saying. Before you start spreading or you start accusing, let us verify. And that goes for everybody. Even our supporters, I say to them, when you hear a thing, don't just stick it. Find out. If you're not sure, get the facts, and then you can talk. Have an excellent day, Devon, and I will continue to listen to the program and hear what's happening, because I know you're going to open up the lines for calls.
Yes. All right, boss. Thank you very much. And again, and you take care. One love. Yes, we have just heard the General Secretary of the New National Party and former parliamentarian and minister, Honorable Roland Bola, enlightening us about a number of things, so as to what is going on. At this point in time, we take a short break. We'll be back in a few minutes.
For over 2 decades, Grenada has had one of the highest electricity rates in the world. In a non-competitive environment, the high rates have been putting businesses under pressure, forcing householders to cut, stifling economic growth.
Oh my Grenada.
Like countries such as Dominica, St. Lucia, and Jamaica, Grenada is moving to open up the power generation sector to competition.
Oh my Grenada.
Like with telecommunications, competition will spur innovation, ensure efficiency and reliability, and make electricity more affordable. The economy will grow faster, and in the end, the network company will sell more. With a stronger economy, electricity usage will increase, maintaining profits for the provider while the prices gets lower for the consumer.
Power to the people. Oh my Grenada.
In a liberalized economy, everybody wins. Liberalization is about the people of Grenada. Fair competition, fair prices, power to the people.
Everyone can contribute to the reduction of mosquitoes around their home or community. Get rid of all mosquito breeding sites. For example, remove unwanted containers such as bottles, tires, plastic bags, and coconut shells. Avoid the indiscriminate dumping of refuse and garbage. Clean and open drains as well as drain pipes. Cover tree holes. Clear roof guttering. Debush your surroundings and ensure that septic tanks are properly sealed. Be a good neighbor. Keep your surroundings clean and free of all mosquito breeding sites. That was a message from the Ministry of Health.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
Welcome back to all, wherever you are joining us this morning. We just had Honorable Bola, giving us an insight into a number of things that is currently going on and some of the things that you need to dispel. Good morning to all of you who have joined us live, via the Hard Talk link on Facebook. Good morning, and hope you're having a wonderful day. Wherever you are, whatever country you are listening or following us from, good morning, good afternoon, right to you. Wherever. Good morning again to the members of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Right, you out there in your numbers ensuring that the citizens of this country remain safe and protected. Right, and just to let you know, right, as of Monday, pay attention, all motorists. Right, the Royal Grenada Police Force will be rolling out the whole breathalyzer program, ensuring that our drivers remain safe, right, on our roads and don't drink and drive excessively, right? We want to ensure that we protect our citizens, both you, the driver, and to the pedestrians, right? So the Royal Grenada Police Force, they are already outside doing all the numerous checks all around the country for your tires, your lights, your license, whatever. And please, give them your support. Cooperate with them. They are only doing a job that you entrusted in them to secure this country. Okay? Right about now, we open the lines. The number you can call is 440-7377. And our overseas line is 329-3101. Okay? Or we miss that caller. So, a reminder, as we enter into the festive season, a number of things that you have to take into consideration, different tips, right? The whole question of protecting your property, right? Ensuring that you safeguard. When you live in your home, safeguard everything that you have, your valuables, and sure, right? Please, you don't want to go through this agony of losing anything. Good morning and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Brother Devon.
Good morning to you, my friend.
How's everything, man?
Not too bad, and welcome.
Okay, how's your hand?
Well, it's coming on. It's a work in progress.
Okay, everything okay. Let's stay patient.
Yes.
Everything will be okay, man. Yeah, Brother Devon, taxes. Right? Brother Devon, a country can't run without tax.
What, you could just turn on your radio in the background first, please? You're creating a little feedback.
Okay.
Yes. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now,
but you can't run with the taxes. You must have to pay the tax. Right? Because if you want the government to do things, like a build a road. You there?
Yeah, I'm there, but I'm still getting a little feedback in the radio. So let's shut it off as low down as possible or turn it off. Right? And just listen to me on the phone.
Yes.
Okay? Right, wonderful.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah. If you want to see development in your country, we must pay tax. Right? Because tax is important, and to see development, taxes must be paid. Right? And I always say, if you have to pay a certain amount of tax and you have a problem, I do believe the best thing to go into the Inland Revenue Department and negotiate with them. But they're staying away so and not paying no tax. Right? It is unfair. Because look at the poor people always paying taxes. Why the bigger people in society all want to evade, tax invaders? I call upon the people, if you love your country and you want to see development, everybody should be interested and to pay the tax. Because without taxes, the country can't run without taxes. Even when we get assistance from outside countries, it's the people in the country that pay the tax for we to get assistance from other countries outside. Call upon the greater people. Tax is important, and we need to pay our tax. Any problem that you have with paying tax, as the Inland Revenue Department said, come in and speak to them, and they could see what could be worked out between you and them. But these tell us if we don't pay the tax, they just go and pay, and informing them to know what is going on. So, Brother Devon, you have a wonderful day. God bless you.
All right, my friend, and thanks for making your contribution. Yes, and I want to say good morning to all our parliamentary representatives right around the country, from Carriacou and Pidi Martinique way down to the south. Usually around this time, a number of Christmas parties and so far our young ones are taking place. So we want to make sure that you do your best to as you have been doing, giving back, right, to the communities, to our young ones, ensuring, right, that they have, an enjoyable season. And so it is just a time that we all try to give back to each other. And that is one way that our politicians, our parliamentary representatives in particular, give back to the different communities, not just the whole, let's say, St. George's, but going deep into the villages and ensuring that they touch the lives, right, of both the senior citizens and our young people. Good morning and welcome.
Yeah, Brad.
Good morning. How you doing, boss?
I day, man. I day.
Yes, nice to hear you.
I day.
Tell me.
I was listening, you and Bola, that is food, boy.
Food for thought, man.
What is fancy, man? That is food, and explanation is very, very great.
And that is what is important.
Yes, man. I see down there listening. And you have a lot more to explain, eh?
Oh, yes, a lot more.
Yeah, a lot more to explain.
Too much things going on in this country for us not to talk. Yeah.
And you see, what threaten me with these people and them, they can't see their fault.
No, they...
Only others. As the good book in the Bible say, you must learn to clean the beam in your eye before you go clean other people's own.
Exactly. And when you're pointing one finger, look at how much is pointing at you. Exactly.
And when you're digging hole, digging up for you too.
Right now, they better build tombs for themselves.
No joke, you know.
Yeah.
When I hear Mr. Bola come out and the former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, and he say that transparency and accountability and all them type of things. Yeah. And the man lie,
you see, because
he lie, the money was right and he account,
Of course, and he tried to deny it.
He denied the first time because he said if anybody have proof, let them come out with it.
But it's all right.
He didn't know we have proof.
No, you forget that.
He didn't know we have proof. Man, watch. I hear something this morning from that dirty boy named Kem. Kem must learn to humble. He go meet it. Kem go meet it. No joke about that. Kem go meet it.
Time will tell.
He was running him out about passport and all them type of stupidness. But you'll get it.
Of course, I mean...
Kem go get it.
Nobody's above the law.
No. Kem go get it. Yeah. He go come like a baby just now. Yeah.
All right, my friend.
I tell you that. So take care, brother.
Yes, you too.
Yeah.
One love.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in this, I'm just, so concerned of some of the remarks and so on, accusations that we continue to make, right, without substantiating it, without giving evidence, right, without, being factual. The only thing we're trying to do is to destroy this country. As Mr. Bola rightly said, a lot of fingers continue to point at the Honorable Prime Minister, who has been serving this country for over 30 years consistently. That counts for a lot. We have to continue to respect each other. We must stop disrespecting, especially those who are put to govern, right, and to manage the affairs of this country, right? Yes, respect goes both ways. So when we continue to malign and to spread hate, right, to our people about certain politicians. We keep on dividing this country, right? It's nowhere for us to go. But then on the other hand, a majority of the Grenadian people understand, right, the reason why that the new National Party is there, because they are the only party over the last 25 to 30 years that has been delivering to the people consistently. Infrastructure, education, agriculture, health, and there's so much talk about health. But if we want to equate, let us equate years gone by, the level of health service that we used to get to now. We will see a big difference. We will understand that this government is working and working for the benefit of our country. Yes, there are a lot of weaknesses, and we are working feverishly, right, as a people to ensure that much better service is brought to our people. It takes time, it takes money, but most of all, it takes patience, patriotism, right, and commitment by the people of this country. The handful of politicians and administrators in our country cannot do it alone. It is a job for all of us. Very soon, you will see the commissioning of a brand new health facility in St. John's. Isn't that improvement? Haven't we moved from that gloomy stage to a more brighter space where the people of the western side can vision better health care for themselves and their children? They are seeing that, but you criticizing and not telling them that. You are not telling them that betterment is there right in front of their face to see it. It is not no talk. It is a reality that within the next couple of months, you will see an improvement, right? Continuous improvement within our healthcare system. Primary health care, right, is first on our program. We must start to ensure that we look after ourselves, right? The general hospital and everything, yes, it's there. But as a people, we must utilize the services of the different health centers around our islands, right? Utilize it. The services is there for us. We can continue to complain, but complain and criticize constructively, right? We have seen great improvement in St. Andrews Hospital, Princess Alice Hospital in St. Andrews, right? Now you barely hear complaints, right, from persons within the St. Andrews and David, St. Patrick area of the services provided. You have seen great improvement. Look at the ambulance services provided by the Ministry of Health. On point. So to those of you who continue to criticize and to malign this government, take stock. Look at yourself and understand that you have been given chances to do it, but you cannot. This team, led by Dr. Mitchell, has made a commitment to the people of this country to serve, and to serve with the best of their ability. There must be no mistake about that. Right? This team will remain strong, ensuring that they deliver the services needed. If we look at the budget, and we will see a number of things, right, that are targeting the average Grenadians to ensure that betterment comes to them. Look at the development of our young people. Right? Much more is put out there for them to get involved. And I'm so impressed, right, by the Empower program that is out there by the Ministry of Youth, right, pulling in a number of young men and giving them the opportunity to learn a skill and go back into their community to open their small businesses, thus making it much better, right, within the community. And so we must praise programs like that, giving opportunities to our young people who otherwise will not have got an opportunity like that, right? To show their talent, to show people what they can do. We must make sure that this country's future is protected. Education, fast improvement in the infrastructure within the education sector. The schools are being, much more attention are being paid to our schools. New schools are in motion to be built. Millions of dollars has been spent over the last 2 years. Renovation, right? Outfitting the different schools without our country. And you talk about no improvement? I wonder if some of you continue to live in Grenada, if you're not just in an island for yourself. Understand? Because so much is being done with the limited resources that we have in our country. It's amazing. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, brothers.
Good morning. How are you going? Not too bad, my friend. And how is everything out there?
Everything is good. Everything is good and sunny and bright over here.
Yes, man. That's good. Nice to hear from you.
I was just listening to a conversation with you and Brother Bola.
Yes.
It was very interesting.
Informative too.
Uncle Tilly says he's the most transparent man in the world. But it's songing fishy now.
Of course it is fishy, and we must say it for what it is.
Yes,
you can't fishy. You can't be out there damning other people, and when you look at yourself, you will see that you have been doing things that persons refuse to even criticize you because you consider yourself to be the most transparent person.
Yes.
But now the spotlight is on him.
Yes, because I calling on him to say where he got the money from. I want to tell you a surprise that you as a gentleman I look up to. I'm very surprised to hear about you today.
Yeah, but then again,
you need to come out and say something.
But then again, he's been put into the spotlight to basically, deflect attention to the present leadership of NDC. Uncle Tilly is just there to take the blows,
Yeah.
But say what?
We catch him with the pants down, man. I want to hear his response now.
Well, yeah, of course, if he respond, you will know he will have some. Thing and some of the NDC will say, "Oh, we taking that thing at Uncle Tilly." Yeah, he got into the game and he decided to put his mouth.
Back in the ring,
Yeah,
he come back in the ring,
Exactly, put his hat where his hand can reach.
Yeah, I understand.
Anyhow, my brother, you have a wonderful day. All right, man, take care and enjoy the season, man. Yes, my brother, it's so important to highlight some of these things and the truth about these things, and I really hope as we continue along and so informing our people, helping educate our people, and so to help to build a better country, and so on.
Yeah, and he has information that they feel that there's something needs to be investigated. They could go and make a report to the FIU, and the FIU could conduct an investigation. But it is usual that officials in political parties receive contribution and donation for the organization. All political parties, I believe, will get contribution or donation. So I don't know what really is the basis of the allegation. Well, I haven't received any money from Saudi Arabia myself. I'm not aware of any money being received from Saudi Arabia. I believe it is more mischief. I think the NNP has been tainted with wrongdoing. So they want to bring all politicians within that category. I think that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to confuse the Grenadian people to make it appear that all of us as politicians are involved in wrongdoing.
So there you heard. It's not me say, It's not me say. It's him say. It's him said it. You heard with his own mouth. All right, so sometimes we got to be very careful of what we say and how to impute to other people and everything like that. So, hey, that's just something. But right about now, we want to share, right, some additional information to you, the general public, as to highlight you of some of the important things, right, that we must do when it comes, right, to the taxes and the contribution that we make toward to government and so, all right? So as we move forward.
Hello everyone, welcome to the government. Hello everyone, welcome to the Government Information Service. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson. In the studio with us, to my immediate left, is Mr. Michael Stephen, the Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Division. And to his left, Mr. Randy Boyk Cadet, he is the Deputy Comptroller. And we're talking about the core function of the IRD, and that's how we'll start our interview today. So I'll start with Mr. Stephen. What exactly is the core function of the IRD?
Thank you, Leslie, and good day to everyone. The Inland Revenue function is primarily to collect inland taxes on behalf of the government of Grenada. And the reason why I say inland taxes is because the other arm of the revenue collection agencies of government is the Customs and Excise Division, which collects taxes on the border. Now, inland revenue is known by certain persons, but there are certain sections of Grenada that has no idea what inland revenue is about. In fact, when they hear about inland revenue, they think about VAT, right? But actually, VAT is not a separate unit by itself. VAT is part of inland revenue. In fact, VAT is one of the major taxes collected by inland revenue, some 36% of total taxes. The other taxes collected are income tax, PAYE, pay as you earn, corporate income tax, annual stamp tax, property tax, and so forth, that persons are probably more familiar with. Another thing we need to think about is that the youths of Grenada basically have no idea what inland revenue is about. And that is why next year, 2020, we have a drive to go into the schools and speak to the young persons to educate them on inland revenue, so that obviously when they go home, they'll speak to their parents about it and ensure that, compliance is elevated nationwide. So essentially, as I said, the IRD's function is to collect taxes inland, and I would have said what these taxes are.
Right, the school visits. You have a time frame in mind when this is going to start? Is it the first quarter of next year, the second quarter? When are we going to start this?
Well, actually, we want to start early. So in the first quarter of the year, we are definitely going to hit all the schools. I will send all the officers. I may go to a few of them, and they will speak to the students in the nation and educate them.
Right, so before I go to Mr. Boyk, what are some of the main issues that you think you'll need to bring out to these young people, just so they understand? And of course, as you mentioned, when they take the message back to their parents, there will be that level of compliance that we're looking for. Oh, Mr. Boyk, you can take that.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Compliance is a big thing, a big deal for us at Inland Revenue, and we have a common thread that usually, a motto, a theme. We said that the more educated the taxpayer is, the more compliant the taxpayer will be. And we believe that for us to strive as a nation, we have to change the tax morale of the people. We have to change the tax culture of the people. So going to the schools is one of the things that we saw fit in. Build the image, build the morale of the tax public by the schools, so that ultimately they can take the message back home to their parents.
Great. Mr. Boyk, I'll stay with you still. What does compliance mean in the context of the IRD?
I smile at that because, as you may be aware, the nation may be aware too, we are currently going through what we like to call a transformational journey, where we are moving away from revenue to compliance. So compliance is a big deal for us. When we speak about compliance, there are 4 pillars. We speak about registration. All the taxpayers who are operating within Grenada, or businesses, individuals who are eligible and liable to pay taxes, you are expected to be registered. Secondly, we talk about filing. That's a particular compliance type that we have to promote more. So we want to see more persons file, and later on we'll discuss the reasons why people need to file. We also look at payment as a third pillar of our compliance, and the 4th pillar is reporting. Declaring and putting on paper that which is supposed to be declared truthfully. So those are the 4 pillars of compliance. Just to repeat them: registration, filing, payment, and reporting.
So it is important, of course, to file.
Yes. In the past, most persons, and we hear today that, I'm paying my taxes, so why should I file? But filing is also a requirement by law. and it helps Inland Revenue to verify that which was paid on your behalf. In cases some persons have been overpaid, there are some cases where persons have been underpaid. When you file, you actually declare that this is what was supposed to be paid on my behalf. And filing also gives you the opportunity to claim back a refund. So you really want to promote and speak loudly on the whole importance of filing. We want to move away from just the revenue, and focus on the 4 pillars of compliance.
Right. What are some of the strategies used by the IRD to improve compliance?
This is a good question. The nation needs to appreciate that Inland Revenue right now is in the process of encouraging persons to comply. We are not only focusing on forcing compliance. So there are 2 main types. You can force compliance or you can encourage compliance. So there are a lot of softer methods of tax administration that we employ. So for example, simple calling of taxpayers to give them reminders, that's something that we do, and we will continue to do that in 2020. Sending reminders, we send press releases every year, reminding persons about their due dates for a particular month. We make phone calls, we send text messages, we interact more with the taxpayer. In fact, we pride ourselves, and the common thread of Inland Revenue is to let taxpayers know that, hey, there is also a softer side of what we do, the more intimate side. So to set up payment arrangement, we want to hear from you. We meet you halfway. These are some of the softer methods that we use in promoting our compliance. And of course, if you fail to relate to us on that softer level, we'll have to use what is the last resort, the heavier methods, where we force you to comply by using some of the methods, that is captured in the Tax Haven Act, for example, seizure, liens, garnishment, etc. So we have 2 main focus, the softer side to begin with, and if all goes well, if you fail to comply with the softer side, we have to strengthen our approach. I want to say here too that when we speak about compliance, we look at the education. Because as I said before, we believe firmly that the more educated the taxpayer is, the more compliant they will be. We look at service delivery. So throughout the office, officers appreciate and they know that they have to give the Grenadians proper service to help build the confidence in the people. And the last part is enforcement. So it's education, it's service delivery, and it's enforcement.
All right. In terms of how much time usually would one have, or let me put it this way, there's a process by which you would know that you have a certain amount of time to register, to file, to pay, to report, in other words, to comply. What is the process for this so that somebody understands exactly what is expected of them within a certain time frame?
And that question requires a whole new interview, but nonetheless, let's look at the registration process. You operate in business. Within 30 days, you have to notify the comptroller that you operated and you come in and register. In fact, the comptroller also has the power to force register you. So what we will do is send our officers out to look for businesses, encouraging to come in. If you don't come in, then we will register you. For filing, for VAT, for example, because as the comptroller said, is one of the most important tax types that we have, you have 20 days after the end of the month to file and pay. For payment, let's assume income tax. This one is most of Grenadians have to pay income tax within 90 days at the end of the fiscal year. So let's assume that the fiscal year runs from January to December. You have 90 days. Sometimes it's March 31st, sometimes it's March 30th, to which you just submit or remit payment. We also have PAYE, where every month the employer is expected to remit from you or take from you or remit to the government. I think it's seven days after the end of the month to submit the same. So different compliance pillar has different due dates. And as I said, maybe in 2020, we'll have to go through our entire public education and look at each compliance pillar individually so a person could understand more what's supposed to happen.
Right. Mr. Stephen, what are the various types of tax types that the IRD will be focusing on to improve its compliance?
Well, actually, the entire gamut of taxes we are going to be focusing on. In fact, we're not going to zero in any tax in particular. Because as I said, the PAYE and the corporate income tax, the annual stamp tax, the VAT are important taxes, but also property tax and property transfer tax and other tax, and there are some licenses as well that we didn't mention, motor vehicle license, driver's license, and so forth. And we are going to be focusing on all those tax types, because persons don't generally like to pay tax, right? And as Randy would have said, there are two types of enforcement, the forced and the voluntary. I prefer to focus on the voluntary because what you need to do is put structures in place so that whoever is controller, myself, Randy, whoever comes on stream sometime in the future, will be able to maintain a certain compliance level in the country, right? Years ago, the major method was forced compliance, where you go after persons aggressively all the time to collect the revenues. But there's a school of thought nowadays, most recently. In fact, we were speaking to a very well-known international consultant, and he was saying that once compliance is properly implemented in a tax revenue administration system, the taxes will flow, right? Because persons will be aware of what the obligations are, and they will comply. They will register on time, they will file, and they will pay on time. And because there are certain measures in the Tax Administration Act, for late payments you will have penalties, interest, and so forth. Persons will tend not to want to be in a situation like that, where they have to pay, in addition to the tax, they have to pay penalties and interest. So in that way, you are encouraging voluntary compliance. Some might say by force, because some are saying that the rates are rather high. For example, the penalty for non-payment is some 20%. That is high, yes, but if you pay on time, you won't have to pay a penalty.
Of course.
Right? And even the interest rate for non-payment, 1.5% compounded per month, right? That is high. But if you pay on time, you don't get yourself into a situation where you have to pay interest on your tax obligations. You don't have to worry about that. In fact, there are other avenues open to the taxpaying public, right? If you have a situation where you cannot pay on time, right? The law has provisions that you can apply to the comptroller for an extension to pay or file, right? And once you do that, you can give yourself some more space to come up with the payments and the filing, right? So there are a lot of mechanisms built into the tax laws that actually benefits taxpayers, but for some reason, some persons tend to ignore these things and they allow their taxes to build up over time, and then they will apply for waivers and so forth. And a waiver is not guaranteed. I mean, just because you have penalties and interest that are 3 times more than your tax doesn't mean that we are going to waive it, because why did you get yourself in that situation in the first place? Okay. Right? But still, you can still write to the Inland Revenue, Minister of Finance, Comptroller, and ask for consideration of a waiver. And based on what your situation is, you may be given some type of relief in that sense. But as I said, we don't want to focus any one particular type of tax. We focus on all, although there are some taxes that have very low compliance, right? Like the annual stamp tax, for example, which we realized had a very low compliance rate. So we implemented some structures to try and elevate that level. But essentially, we focus on all areas, and those that require more effort than others, we tend to give them a bit more push, right? So. Basically, that's it.
But why was there a low compliance rate for the annual stamp tax, Mr. Boy?
Well, the reason is many. But what we see happening, filing has never been a main thrust of Inland Revenue over the years. It's focused a lot on payment. So now we want to focus a lot on filing. Okay. And just to add to what the comptroller said, most of the taxes that we administer are self-assessed. So the taxpayers declare that I am supposed to pay X. Right. And by declaring that, we expect you to pay X. In failing to file or failing to declare, that we do what is called a best of judgment, where we do our own assessment. But we don't assess taxes. The only one that we assess is property tax. But most of the taxes come directly from the individuals as a self-assessed system that we operate within Inland Revenue.
All right, I want to stay with you still, Mr. Boyk. Something Mr. Stephen would have mentioned. If you can't pay on time, you could always write to the Minister of Finance and all that. So in the event that you can work something out, how much time will you be given in that case? Because if you've already passed the deadline, how much grace period would you be now given?
Well, I want to focus on the payment arrangement. You know, you have a difficulty in paying, you can come into the collection arm of Inland Revenue and set up with the collection officers a payment arrangement. And we do it on a case-by-case basis. You know, based on your need, we do what is called an ability to pay assessment. So we assess you, we actually declare all the income, all the expenditure, and we hear you. You know, and based on your circumstance, we put you on a relatively realistic arrangement to suit your circumstance.
All right, so I need to ask, because you mentioned that there's the forced and the other one is voluntary and forced, right? In the event that it has to be forced, what is the procedure now? Still to ensure some sort of a fairness is the word I can use there on the person, although they would have faulted, but still, what is the procedure just to make sure that the government is not too hard and fast on them still? What can be done, even though you're applying now the forced procedure?
I think I started.
Well, I mean, I could start and you can continue. I mean, the person, once they find themselves in such a situation, I mean, obviously they were right, because we prefer putting things down in black and white. You know, you write and you say why you are in this situation, right? And then we will assess your situation to determine whether what you are saying is indeed correct.
Okay.
Right? Because once you arrive at a situation where you have to force a taxpayer to pay their taxes, that's basically the last resort.
Yeah.
Right? We tend not to want to do these things, right? So I mean, for example, we can, you know, the comptroller has the power under law in the Tax Admin Act, because nothing that we do in Inland Revenue is by the seat of our pants. Everything is governed by tax laws, right, that were passed in Parliament, right? So we can, the comptroller can, you know, prevent items from being cleared at the port, for example, right? The goods of a taxpayer, right? We can you know, put restrictions on registering deeds in the Supreme Court registry. You know, and you know, those are some of the harsh things that we can do. I mean, some person might say, well, you know, you're shutting down a man's business, right? But you know, how did we arrive at this position, right? It's because you would have been calling the person, you would have been engaging them in meetings over a long period of time, you know, and you know, those things did not satisfy the requirements that we wanted them to satisfy, right? And in such instances, most of these taxpayers would have built up a large amount of tax debt to the government of Grenada. In fact, if you look at the VAT, for example, right? VAT is a tax that is collected on behalf of the government of Grenada, right? The tax-paying public will purchase your goods, right? They pay 15% VAT on it, and that VAT, the business pays just collecting the VAT to pass it on to the government, right? You're not, and in 20 days after the end of the month. So there is an expectation. If you don't do that, then essentially you are stealing from the population. You're stealing from government, you're stealing from your customers, right? And that is a serious thing to consider. So, I mean, we tend not to want to, you know, carry out these levels of enforcement on businesses, because we understand, you know, businesses have employees have families, you know, they have to provide for their families, and that is important. So anytime we arrive at a situation where we have to implement these measures, right, as to hold up, you know, your goods from clearance, you know, prevent other things from happening where your business is concerned, is because that is the last resort, right? And we must know, for example, that you have some way of paying these taxes, but in our view, you know, you don't want to do it. I mean, so you know, that is some of the reasons, you know, why we'll tend to want to take the harsh approach, right? Because we don't have a choice, because we'd have explored all the other options, you know, the meetings, the exchange of letters, you know, promises, give them, you know, time to come up with the necessary finances, and those things, you know, fell through the cracks. So, you know, we have to, you know, the comptroller has to carry out his function as, which is to collect taxes on behalf of the government of Grenada. Because why do you collect taxes? You collect taxes in order to provide public goods to the population. You know, the free healthcare system and all the secondary schools and so forth and other things. You know, so you know, we need to collect the taxes, and the comptroller has the responsibility to do that. And if the ordinary compliance method does not work, then you have to force, right? So, yeah.
So that is the last resort.
Yeah.
Mr. Boyd, you want to add anything to that?
There's nothing much to add. The comptroller would have answered, sufficiently well. I just want to say, that we are in the business of administering taxes. We're not in the business of shutting down businesses.
Definitely. All right, gentlemen, is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap this up?
Well, I would just like to encourage the tax-paying public to ensure that whatever taxes you have to pay to the Inland Revenue Division or to Customs, that you ensure it is done and done on time. All right. Once you do that, then you will not be in a situation where you have to pay penalties or interest on your tax payments. And you know what the taxes are being collected for, as I said before, is in the public interest to provide public goods to the population. If you have concerns with that, well then there are avenues to express your concerns. Right? But I do encourage the general public to do ensure that the taxes are paid on time. The property tax, for example, because it is what it is, persons may tend to not want to pay it when they should, but in fact you have almost the entire year to pay property tax, up until the end of August actually. So persons should ensure that they carry out their national duties. I would like to put it.
Mr. Boyd?
I just want to say in closing, with rights come responsibilities, and it's a partnership. We know what we expect you to do in Inland Revenue, and we expect you to do what you're supposed to do. And where you can, we want to encourage you and educate you so that we can bridge the gap between non-compliance and compliance. Just want to let the nation know that very soon the demand notices will be out, so most likely in January. Please collect your demand notices from the post office and the post boxes, etc.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Okay, so we've been speaking with Mr. Michael Stephen. He's to my immediate left, Comptroller of the Inland Revenue Division, and to his left, Mr. Randy Boyd Cadet, the Deputy Comptroller, and of course talking about the core function of the IRD. I'm Leslie Ann Johnson. Thank you so much for viewing. Hello everyone, welcome to the Government Information Service. I am Leslie Ann Johnson, and we have in the studio with us today, to my immediate left, Mr. Algernon Belfon. He is the Acting Deputy Comptroller of the Customs and Excise Division, and to his left, Mr. Shane Derby, the Deputy Comptroller of the Customs and Excise Division, and we're talking today about the role of customs and the importance of compliance. Gentlemen, it's good to have you both.
Thank you. To be here.
Okay, great. So let's get things rolling. What is the role of customs? What do you do? I'll start with Mr. Derby, since you are the Deputy Comptroller.
Firstly, the role of the Customs and Excise Department, first of all, our main responsibility is to border security and revenue collection. These responsibilities must occur in an environment that facilitates legitimate trade and travel. So although we have a job to do, we are mindful that execution of our duties should not impede on the movement of goods and people that are law-abiding. Additionally, we do agency duties for a number of government agencies, and for example, the police, the Ministry of Agriculture, Health, Trade, Bureau of Standards, to name a few.
Okay.
That's basically the role of customs.
All right. So when you say agency duties, just help us to understand a bit more what exactly you do there.
All right. For example, when you import some perishable items, certain items you have to get licensed for, and the Ministry of Agriculture is the one responsible for that item. And as a result of that, we make sure that the documents that is submitted to customs have the relevant license etc.
Okay. And what is the amount of revenue that you'd usually collect as a division?
On average, we collect about 50% of total government intake. Yeah.
Okay. What is compliance, Mr. Belfon?
Well, basically, compliance is adherence to all legislative directives, policies that govern the whatever process or service that you are encountering in your travels through the Customs Department. So compliance basically is a person who adheres to all the procedures, processes, and legislative requirements that each person is entitled to follow.
Right. And what are some of the benefits to being compliant?
The benefits to be compliant is extreme, actually. The first one is ease of doing business, the speed at which you are processed through whatever point or port of entry. So a compliant person would activate a lesser or lower risk response from the Customs Department, which assures faster processing of that individual.
Mr. W,
before we move forward, let me just give a little background of compliance.
Okay.
In the 1990s, I don't know if you can recall, we did a lot of manual stuff. When importers have to clear their stuff, they have to submit it in handwritten form. It has to be manually checked by an officer. Right? With the advent of technology, we realized that we cannot keep up or continue at that pace. And as a result of that, we decided that we have to reform. We had a reformation program that started in 2012, and to date we have been to the end of the program. If I may read this clip for you from the Customs. The Customs Excise Department quickly realized that it could not keep up with the amount of workload that was given to us. The idea to solve quickly. So we decided to make the importer accountable for the tax obligation and stats by introducing the concept of self-regulation and voluntary compliance. And that is one of the reasons why we're hearing a lot about compliance these days. The world has changed from this manual operations to electronic. We have to account for most of the stuff that we do, so electronic is a much easier way of doing business. So we decided to do voluntary compliance, and this is why we are here today to discuss compliance.
Great. And how has that helped, Mr. Belfon, in terms of the voluntary compliance, moving from the manual workload to the voluntary compliance? How has that helped to expedite your work?
Well, one must appreciate that the Customs Department sits on the border of the country. Ultimately, our primary function is border security. So we manage movement of goods and persons across the border. Because we're in that space, it is best for us to also carry out our second role and responsibility, which is the collection of duties and taxes. But the administration of movement across the border is beneficial to both the state and the individual. The faster a business person can be processed through customs is the better for them. They can meet their sales windows in a faster time. They can restock very quickly. They can actually make projections, which makes it easier for them to fulfill orders or obligations, because they can know it's going to take me such and such amount of time to be processed through customs. So because of that, the self-evaluation and the self processing and accessing through customs is the better way to go, because it's a symbiotic relationship. It benefits both of us. So that is why we moved in that direction. So that currently you would have importers actually, most of the declarations are made either at home or through using the services of a broker. So they actually interface with our automated system, Asecuda, online. So it gives them a wider range of time in which to interface with the system. The system never shuts down. It's available 24 hours. The electronic submission is evaluated electronically immediately. Small mistakes are detected and returned to them very quickly, which cuts down the time period it takes to process a declaration.
Okay.
The other thing we've done also is we've shifted the time or the area where we do the most investigation of the documents presented to us. So before you brought your documents up front, the officer would check everything up front, and that would delay or increase the time before you have access to your goods. Now we've moved that from the front end to the back end, so that the officers just do basic preliminary checks up front, which affords for persons to get access to their car a lot faster.
Right, but it doesn't in any way hinder security measures or anything like that, doing it in that way?
No, it doesn't. It is not something that happens actually ad hoc.
Oh, okay.
We have something called a risk management system, and we have a risk management department. The risk management department basically is there to allow the persons who are compliant and law abiding to get through very quickly, while we maximize use of our resources to deal with the persons who are actually non-compliant. So the system works in such a way where basically we would only examine 20% of the cargo that comes through. But that is on a basis of proper research, evaluation, audit of persons, information available over the time periods that persons would have done business with us. These persons are looked at and evaluated based on the level of risk that you present in doing business. You would be given a rating. And businesses who are given a red rating, which means high risk, can come back to the customs department. When they ask what the problem was, we would sit with them, we would advise them what they need to do, we would provide support for them to help them in cases where it's as a result of a lack of information or just a lack of negligence on the part of employees or misunderstanding of a particular procedure or process. We provide assistance and support to them. So enabling them to be able to come up to speed so that they would move from high risk to low risk. And low risk would afford them the opportunity of just being able to process through the system. The system does have fail-safes within it, so we have what is called a random red. So even though a person is rated low risk, from time to time the system is going to evaluate or make a random check on that person, as the officer to do an evaluation of that person. Also, the officers on the front end who do preliminary or periodic checks, every entry that they process, they're required to report back to the system. The system requires them to fill out what is called an inspection act. So the inspection act will have various tabs looking at various areas of risks. And that particular risk, once identified, the system records it. So if a particular business person continues to operate in a very negligent manner, for example, they keep submitting the wrong documents, etc., the system will detect it. And then our risk management department, on evaluating that particular company, the level of risk of the company will increase. So it allows for the balance between the identification of non-compliant importers and the allowing of compliant importers to be processed through the system very quickly.
So the level of risk of the company will increase, as you mentioned. What does that mean for the company now, in terms of your operations and your relationship, its operations and relationship with the division?
Well, let me put the offenses or violations against the Customs Act into two segments, because that's how the law treats with it. You have what is called negligence. So persons who they're not concerned, some persons are just not tardy, they're very tardy, they don't put out themselves to get the correct information and so on. But they have no real intention to defraud the state or rob the state of what is due to it. those persons, the law identified them as negligent individuals.
Okay.
So our responsibility then would be to engage these persons, have a chat with them, see how we could empower them and how we could assist them to come up to speed. However, if the level of negligence continues and is repeated, then the law allows for the Customs Department to impose a fine or take the person to court. But the fine in those areas are very small, right? It's very low and very small. Then you have more what is called cursory negligence, so where it's ingrained, it's part of the company's policy and culture. Some companies, for example, they don't want to come up to the times. They still want to do manual work, so the ability to source the proper documents is very tardy and so on. But you still, in those cases, don't have the intention to defraud the Customs Department. But the problems that these companies create cause a lot of delays for the Customs Department and other importers. Remember, we have several different ports of entry, and we have now increasing what we call points of entry, because you have several other companies that either move their stuff from an airport or one of our ports, and people visit those areas to process their goods, like Quick Pack and FedEx and DHL and all these companies. So the more problems that are created by entities is the slower the Customs Department will be able to process and administer services. So it's important for us to ensure that parties do not delay or infringe on the process. So that's those persons. So we'd still treat with them, but the law would put a stiffer penalty on them. And as they continue to increase and not decrease, then you deal with them in a more stringent manner.
Great.
And then you have persons who intentionally defraud the revenue and duties and taxes. And the word that the law uses is knowingly. So first of all, in those cases, we must prove, as a Customs Department, we must prove two things. We must prove, one, that the person did an action which is equivalent to an offense against the Customs Act, and two, the person intentionally did it, so that the person knew what the right thing to do was. They were in the practice of doing the right thing. They had access to all the information as to what the right thing was supposed to do. They are a reputable company for a long period of time. They would have engaged us over a period of time. So they have all the information available to them, and it's clear that they are aware of it, and they decide to not follow it for a personal benefit to them or to the company that they work for. So you intentionally do an act which defrauds the government of revenue. In those situations, the law treats very strictly with those persons.
Okay, that's a lot of good information. Thank you. So let me come back to Mr. Derby, and just to follow up on what Mr. Belfon would have said. What is the process then once you determine? Now, first of all, how do you go about proving that the person intentionally decided to defraud, and then what is the process? What happens next to ensure that the situation is rectified? So that everything.
You take it.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the Customs Department has varying sections which are equipped to deal with that. So you have what is called, first of all, the Risk Management Department. And the Risk Management Department on a daily basis looks at the performance of all stakeholders in our system, right? They may identify certain risks, and they would forward it to what is called our Investigations Department and also our Intelligence Department. So our Intelligence Department would now begin to look at persons. We might engage other entities within the state, other state entities like the police, the Financial Investigations Unit. We would engage them to ask for assistance and support to look at a particular entity to assess whether or not the entity is involving a practice that is against the Customs Act. Once that information begins to be collected and the indicators become present that the person is not compliant, the investigations department would come into play. The investigations department role is to look at the company and really assess based on all the declarations it would have made or all its activities with the Customs Department, and use whatever legislative powers and state resources that is available to get all the information, so to prove that the said individual would have committed an offense. And that is extremely, there's a lot of them. So for example, we can go as far as going to the AG's office and have an MLAT done, which is a Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. Under the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, the government of Grenada has agreements with other countries so that they can share information on tax and trade. So if the particular importer is not telling us the correct prices, the host country of the supplier could get from a subpoena could be executed in that country to get that information and send it to us in Grenada to prove that what the correct price is compared to what the importer would have declared to us.
So this is a process that doesn't take a specific amount of time. It could go on for as long as possible, depending on the amount of information and maybe the length of time that an individual or a company might have been intentionally defrauding.
Correct. It can take years.
Most of the time we normally don't want to drag it on to go to 2 and 3 and 4 years.
Right.
We try to keep it within a 1 year span. Try to get an investigation done within a year. If we can't, we'll have it on the back burner, but still doing our investigation behind the scenes. But we try to do it as within a 1 year, because we basically have a 5 year period for which we can execute any fines and penalties, etc.
Okay, so you have to explain the process. And in all of that, what Mr. Belfon would have just explained, is there a period while you're doing your investigations that there will be any type of correspondence with the person or company who would have committed the act?
Most times there is always correspondence with a particular company, because there's another agency in the Customs Department called the Audit Department. The Audit Department does visits to different companies to evaluate what are you doing, whether you're compliant, and companies can ask for an audit. So there are companies who they're not so sure if their employees are compliant and they want to reevaluate their structure. They'll call the Customs Department and say, can you come and give us an audit? And the audit is really to assess their level of activity and compliance and to help them to come to. It's not to identify any wrongdoing, but more so to evaluate their performance and assist them to come to the place where they should be. So that so based on that, we always engaging entities. So even though there may be a case where there is a full-fledged investigation, more than not, the Customs Department would have been engaging that company over a period of time.
So penalties, let's say at the end of an investigation, penalties be involved, what would happen then?
Yes, well, the law stipulates that we can issue penalties. The Controller of Customs have the power vested in them to issue penalties, fines, penalties, and if we can't, or if we fail to, we can take it to court, where the magistrate will decide the outcome of the case, basically.
Basically, it's because again we're involved in trade, court processes can be very long. Also, we're involved in a very fluid business. So for example, aircrafts spend most times anyway between 5 minutes to half an hour in your country. If something happens in relation to an aircraft, you can't say, well, let's hold the aircraft in the country while the court goes on. Our vessel needs to move its cargo, 3/4 of its cargo and boards belongs to another country. So because of that, the Customs Department has the discretion in law to settle something what is called administratively. So we have what is called administrative settlement. So an entity who accepts that they would have infringed on the Customs Act, they have to apply to the comptroller in writing asking for an administrative settlement. So it's nothing that the customs imposes on them. It's a service that's available to them, right? So that they can quickly get through and continue with their business. So they would apply, the comptroller would agree or disagree, and if the comptroller agrees, the comptroller will implement a fine or penalty based on that which is stipulated in the law. If for reasons that the comptroller may have, he doesn't want to settle, then the matter goes to court. Or if the party is not in agreement with the settlement, the party can decide to go to court. And then the matter will be either dealt with in the magistrate's court or in the High Court if it's an indictable matter.
But in the event that there is an agreement to settle, how long would it take after they write? How long would it take before they get a response?
It's just a matter of the necessary making the arrangement with the controller and the importer, his agent. They comes in, they call or they write and request a date. Well, when they write and asking for the administrative settlement, the controller will respond and say yes. They'll ask for a date in which they can come in and sit and discuss the matter of the case. And from that point, when the verdict is reached, the controller will give them, if you want to give them a payment arrangement, or if they ask them to pay straight up front, settled in, we try to accommodate, we try to facilitate trade, so we sometimes go the route of a payment agreement. Most of the times we tend not to want to go that route.
Basically, it will take anywhere between an hour to a day. Depends on the magnitude. If sometimes every person who comes for an administrative settlement, they're entitled to legal defense. So sometimes they bring their lawyers, and the lawyers want to evaluate the agreement or the terms and conditions of the settlement. So it may take maybe a week, but not very long.
But you tend not to want to go that route sometimes?
Yes, sometimes you have to send a message outside to some of these importers that we are customs and we are not joking sometimes. Sometimes they take us for a joke. I must admit, over the years we have been sometimes too sympathetic to the importers or to the general public, and they tend to take us lightly. I know that for a fact that there are a number of issues that the controller say, let's try them, and we in the long run having issues with getting the monies. So sometimes we decide, okay, no, we're not going to go that route. We're going to take it to court, let the court decide, and send a message to the public or to the importers that we are a serious entity and we want it to be respected.
Has it worked at least to a certain extent?
I must echo what Mr. Derby is saying. One of the problems that we've had as a customs department is we would have administrative settlements and people would not pay. They would pay for the first couple installments, and then they would not pay anymore. And they become problematic. You write them the first time, second time, and some of them even have lawyers write you when you write them. Even though they would have made the agreements and so on. And then some of them, they would respond by asking for unreasonable times to pay. Like you would have a month by month, and they write you and tell you they want to pay quarterly instead. So at the focal center of it, though, what is a penalty? A penalty is basically to remind you that there is a consequence for not being compliant, a consequence for hindering the ease of doing business, and most importantly, when somebody does not pay the correct rate of tax duties and taxes, they deny another person or another party who has put in the time, the business acumen from making an earning of it. So it's important for us as Customs Department to keep the field of business level, so that all the parties who have honestly invested, who have honestly done their research, who have honestly engaged, all the entities that makes it necessary for them to have a successful business get the benefit to do that. The persons who do weird things, for example, like online invoicing and so, may undercut the honest person. So you may see a better business deal here, and you go over here. It's not fair for that person who have invested those resources and time to not benefit from it. So that is why, as an organization, it's important for us to ensure that all the entities who comply have an ease and out doing business, and the entities who don't, that the customs department steps up and treats with them.
And what are some of the strategies that you have in place to ensure compliance, encourage compliance?
Well, we have our audit department, which is consistently evaluating different entities. So at the back end, our audit department checks all. So instead of engaging at the front end, we do preliminary checks. But at the back end, our audit department sits and really goes through all the different declarations to ensure that the parties are compliant. If the audit department recognizes that there's a particular company of concern, they would refer it to an investigation unit, who will then begin to investigate that entity. You also have our risk management unit that also mines the Asecutor operating system and looks at all these stakeholders that engage our system to look for the same indicators of non-compliance within the system. We would also look from time to time, different countries would do evaluations. The World Customs Organization would also do research evaluations. We always keep abreast of what is the new techniques and trends and what are the indicators that are trending at the particular time, so that we're up to date with all the necessary information that enables us to build our capacity to very quickly recognize areas of concern.
And if I may add, moving forward, 2020 will be introducing the Trusted Trader program, where if you are compliant, you will not be getting all the 100% inspection. There's a lot of hassle-free clearance of goods, so to speak. So you wouldn't have that hassle of goods being hold up, goods being checked by 100%. No, if you fall within that compliance category, you get that special treatment. So we try to encourage people to get compliant. So if you get compliant, you get that special treatment. Your goods will be checked way in the back end of everything. You get it free up front to go without any major concern, and at the back end, we check it. But you will be, so long as you're compliant, we prove that it is compliant, you will get that service.
All right, gentlemen, anything else you want to add before we wrap?
I would just like to remind all our stakeholders that the Customs Department is only a phone call away. Most persons fail to recognize that we're here to support business. It's a symbiotic relationship. There's no us without you. The more business that is done, is the better the country grows and the faster the country grows. So our ultimate objective is to encourage and to support business. So we want to appeal to persons with it. Please call. When you come in with your concerns, we have an open door policy. Come and discuss what issues you may have. Most of our supervisors will respond to your inquiries or questions. We also respond very readily to individual inquiries as well from time to time.
Really speedily.
Yeah, very speedily. very speedily. Yeah. Usually we respond within a day or so.
Yeah, 24 hours. Yeah.
24 hours. Yeah. And so we're there for you, right? So it's best if you ask the questions up front,
of course,
instead of asking the questions to navigate a problem that you have avoided. Yeah. So please call us, and we're here to help you.
Well, I have one little quotation that I took from one of the compliance reading. Let me read it. The key to derive positive benefits from custom procedures is knowledge. A solid all-round understanding of the customs environment and procedures can transform a cause for concern into a cause for celebration. While a positive and proactive relationship with Customs and Excise Department can bring further direct and indirect benefits for your company, the time spent in learning and understanding customs issues is not wasted, would not be wasted. It would benefit you. The more that you understand and you know customs laws and regulation, it will be a plus to your company and to your compliance approach.
Right. And as you read that quote, Do some people actually try to use ignorance of some of these rules and regulations as an excuse for some of the things that they might try to do?
Yes, they absolutely do. And you see, I'm a student of a law, because it's beautiful to see how law progresses, because law is designed based on what is needed to tool or create parameters for human behavior to avoid us from getting into trouble. So in the custom legislation, for example, there are pieces of the legislation where ignorance of the law is not an excuse. So for example, in the case of a prohibition, the law says not knowing that a particular item is not prohibited is not a defense for you. So it's important for certain persons to get, because a prohibition is maybe something that's extremely dangerous to the whole state, and it's in your interest of love for your country. You should make yourself aware of what items the state says you shouldn't bring in for the protection of the state. And so there are persons who try those things all the time, but not successfully.
That's good.
I wouldn't be so harsh as Mr. Belford and say not successfully. They do from time to time get through. We can't deny that. But most of the times we'll be on top of things, and we want the rest to know that 2020 would be a better year for us, and hopefully for them, so long as they comply.
So I guess it boils down to not successfully.
And the Customs Department, because we have a responsibility as customs to ensure that the honest business person has the appropriate environment where they can make the relevant and required profit from the investment. That's one of our responsibilities. So we would not be taking lightly the parties who make it their goal or objective to circumvent the system for individual benefit. That is not positive growth or legal growth. So we will use every resource that is available in the state. We have developed relationships with other entities within the state, like the FIU, the police force, to ensure that all the legislative capacity that is there, all the human resource capacity that is there, is used to ensure that the person who legally does the right thing benefits, and the person who doesn't is treated with appropriately.
All right, that's a warning. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Great. So I've been speaking with Mr. Algernon Belfon. He's to my immediate left. He is the Acting Deputy Comptroller of the Customs Division, Customs and Excise Division, and to his left, Mr. Shane Derby, the Deputy Comptroller, again, of the Customs and Excise Division. We've been talking about the role of customs and the importance of compliance. Thank you so much for viewing.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new National Party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.